Hello, good morning. How are you? My name's Lee Boyd. I'm an artist, and this is ArtCat. Thanks for being here. I'm starting a few minutes early just to make sure the people can get in and get set up. I put links up all over the place, um, over on Facebook and things. So if you're watching from there, hello. You can join us over here on YouTube as well if you like. And so yeah, we've got one person in the room already. Michael, good morning. I don't know if that was you right at the very beginning when I set this all up. Somebody's been waiting very patiently for the last half an hour because I put that we will be starting streaming soon logo up. So I thought it was gonna hold it until I said go, but it didn't. It just put it straight up straight away. So somebody's been waiting very patiently for the last half an hour. So I thought I'll just jump on 5 minutes before we start to say hello to everybody. So yeah, good morning, Michael. Glad to see you. We've got one person sort of lurking in the background. If you want to stay quiet, that's entirely up to you. But you can ask questions. That's what the whole thing is about. Michael, I saw your portrait earlier on this week. You drew a climber and you posted it up on Facebook. I thought it was brilliant, and I can really see an improvement in some of the rendering and some of the tonal work that you've put into your work. So it's really great to see, and I'm so glad you keep on drawing as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed, keeping everything crossed, touching wood and everything else. Real life drawing classes that I do here in Northern Ireland, a place called the Ards Art Centre, will be starting up in October. I don't have any other details yet as to how you sign up to it. Hopefully they're going to have their own website soon, and they'll be posting details about how you can sign up to the classes on through there. So if you're in Northern Ireland and you want to go to one of the live drawing classes, I do one on a Saturday morning from 10 to 12, and one on a Monday morning. Monday morning from 10 to Saturday morning. I'll start again. Saturday morning is 10 to 12, and the Monday morning is 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. So I can't wait to get those started. But it does mean that this will be going on at a slightly later time. Not yet. It'll happen when the real life classes start. So I'll give people plenty of warning when that happens. But I'm looking to possibly start these around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the live classes start, because you can't do two things at the same time. So yeah, you're more than welcome to ask any questions here. Michael, you're very welcome. And I say that with all honesty as well. I'm not just saying it because it's me sort of demonstrating art and all the rest of it. I actually thought it was a really good portrait, so well done. Are you working on anything else now? Have you decided what you're going to work on next? As you can see, you've got the lovely picture of Desiree in the top left hand corner. Top left? My top left or your top right? Over the last few weeks we have been doing a portrait of Alex. Desiree, good morning. Number 21, thin and beautiful. You are. Look, that's a gorgeous picture. So yeah, we're going to be doing your portrait today, which I'm kind of looking forward to. We've been doing Alex for the last there's my cat Inky. Ow, well, just attacked my knee. Yeah, we've been doing Alex over the last couple of weeks, so I'm just going to readjust myself and put the cat on the cushion. Her claws are getting sharp. And over the last few weeks here, we've been doing the very small portraits, and it's part of a larger work that I'm working on. So if you want to be involved with that, do send me your picture through Facebook Messenger on my Lee Boyd Artist Facebook page. And if you send me a selfie picture, I'm going to put it into an artwork, so you'll see a collection of portraits. And it's just really to commemorate the whole experience of COVID and this whole new experience of doing things online. So I thought it was kind of a nice way of identifying and kind of not really celebrating, but notifying what COVID has kind of meant, and bring people together in a slightly new way. Everybody's learning new things. I've heard a lot of people who haven't really used social media before, or got involved with doing live broadcasts or jumping online, and it's kind of broke those barriers down a little bit. So hopefully you're finding it easy as you go on. So I'm slowly, fingers crossed, making less mistakes through the technical side of it. You can see you've got a new headset on today. So I hope the sound sounds okay for you. Your keyboards and mouses and things like that. So this all came down. I do want to acknowledge as well, I was very lucky. I applied for an Arts Council grant. So it was the Arts Council of Northern Ireland, and I received a grant which really helped me get all this together, because when we first started this, if you go to the Facebook page and have a look through the video sections and go back, I think we've been doing this for like 20 weeks now. Right at the very start, I was doing this with a mobile phone in front of my face, and I was drawing around the mobile phone on, and it was a really sort of a Heath Robinson experience, because there was lots of things that could have just crashed at any point. But it's how we all learn, and it's very similar to drawing as well. When you're starting off, everything's a bit sort of clunky and everything feels very mechanical and very laboured. But as you do it more often, it gets a little bit easier, step by step. I'm not saying that this is, a breeze by any stage. Like, it's not. Doing all this at the minute is still kind of me juggling lots of stuff, including cats that jump on your knee when you start broadcasting. But as you get through the kind of struggly stage of trying things out and making marks on a page, you make little leaps forward in your learning experience, and you need to acknowledge those things. You need to kind of understand that you are starting off. You're not going to be brilliant at everything to begin with, and that's okay. That's part of the process. And if you make friends with that kind of early on, and you get used to it, and you're not afraid to adjust or make mistakes or change things around a little bit, or turn over a new page and start again. If you get used to that process and you take the pressure off yourself, it becomes an awful lot more pleasurable and a lot more easy on yourself, and therefore you want to draw more. And that's the whole point. The more you draw, the more you'll get on. The more you do, the more you'll progress, and over a relatively short period of time, you'll see an improvement in your drawing skills. And you need to reflect back and look back over, your sketches when you first started off, as to how much you've improved. And if you think about it, the length of time that you've invested in drawing, say for these only 2 hours on a Saturday morning, or if you've been doing it, say when you come in from work, or you've been grabbing an hour or half an hour here and there. Life's busy, so it's not like you have the luxury of drawing for 8 hours a day. You'll see your progression relatively in a short period of time. If you bunched all of those hours together, it probably wouldn't even last a week. So if I said to you, I'm going to have you drawing at this level within a week, you'd probably, yeah, don't believe you. But in actual fact, that's what you've done. Although we spread it over sort of 20 weeks at 2 hours. The thing about it this way, that's not even 2 days. If we only did the 2 hours drawing here with me on an ArtCAD in length of time, so that's an awful lot of progression in a very short period of time. And you can start to have more questions as you do more. You'll start to, hit roadblocks, so you'll hit a plateau and you go, I don't know how to improve this better. Here's a perfect chance for you to ask the questions about how you do things, how you can change things around, how you can improve your work. It's great that you're posting things up on Facebook. If you're stuck with something as well, you can send me pictures of what you're working on through Messenger, and if you're having a specific problem, you can give me some background information on the work that you're working on. If you're working for a reference photo, send that through as well. And you can ask me a question and I'll get back to you and answer you, and we can talk about the work there. So I'm going to flick you over to the other camera now, rather than just my face. It's not that great in the morning, is it? So this is a drawing cam. So as I said, I've got the picture of Desiree just there. I'm still up there in the top right hand corner, and we have a picture of Kathy and Alex. So Alex is more or less finished now. You can see that I've left some shading there that I can clean off and trim around a little bit to make it a little bit squarer. I did decide to put that background in. I don't know if you saw the pictures from last week. If you haven't watched it, you can click back on the videos. I wasn't too sure where to put that background in, but I thought it was quite nice because it kind of pushed him forward a little bit. And I can zoom in on Alex a little bit more so you can see him. I worked a little bit more on his shirt. and you see some reflections in his glasses. There's some detail, very very slight detail in the wall behind him. But today we're going to be working on Desiree, and as you can see, she's not on the page just yet. Desiree's with us, so thank you for sending that picture through. Really, really do appreciate it. So yes, we're going to kick off and start off that today. Does anybody have any questions? Because I know it's just me talking and you're all sitting back and listening. But you can ask questions. You can say good morning to each other. Yeah. It's really nice. I've noticed on other broadcasts as well, when people are starting to chat with each other and, you know, little comments, keep them flowing. You know, you don't have to wait for me to ask a question. You can have a little chat about stuff in the chat box as I'm working away. You might be drawing yourselves. Great. And I know Alex was, I think, taking screenshots of what was on, obviously his computer, PC, whatever, and having got to doing the portraits himself. And so if you want to take a screenshot and have a go, let us know what you do. Whereabouts are you as well? Say hello when you come into the room. Let us know who you are, where you're working. I know we've had people join from places all over, so no, it's just not the people who come to my drawing classes who've been using the art chat. It's, you know, people from all over the world have been doing it as well. Send me messages through during the week, and that's really exciting because it means that the message is spreading out a little bit further. I also talk about an awful lot of other artists as well, and also their YouTube links and things like that. So if there's something I'm specifically talking about and you want to know a little bit more, ask me and I can put links up to places as well. I did start off by putting up a link to my website, which isn't there. I thought I'd put a link up to my website. Basically, it's a page with all my yeah, I didn't do it. I'll do it now. I'll copy that. I'll paste it into chat. So things that I might use, pencils, papers, things like that. You don't have to use them. You can use your own stuff. This is just the materials that I kind of suggest to people. There is an affiliated link associated with them, so I have to be clear and honest with you about that. If somebody does buy something through the link, you don't pay anything extra. It's just that I'm sort of directing people. But I also put links up there to the local art shops. So if you've got a local art shop in your area, you can always go by and support them as well. It's just for your information. So yeah, I mentioned the Arts Council grant, and it's important to say thank you, obviously, but it's important that there are an awful lot of artists out there who are struggling at the moment, and it's hard because all of their venues are closed, their exhibitions have shut, their teaching has ceased to exist, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to, if this is your living, to make a living from it. So with support from the Arts Council, it's vital to a lot of artists, you know, not just visual artists like myself, but musicians, writers, etc., that they are supported in some format, that until we come out of COVID, they have nothing coming in, and the little bit of support we can get from the Arts Council is very, very much needed, because it allows us to keep going. And I was lucky to get a grant. We had to the initial wave of support that was out there was project based, and very much encouraging people to, you know, carry on with their practice in some format. And I'd been thinking about doing this for some time, so I kind of had the idea and the plan in my head. I was just lucky enough that when the grant system came out, that this kind of fit in like a glove. It doesn't always happen. So yeah, I was lucky enough to get some support through that, and so buy cameras, lights, and get things set up so this can physically work. So I have to say big thank you to them. There are, as I said, a lot of artists out there who need support in some way. So when events start opening and exhibitions start happening, I'm going to encourage you as much as possible in your local areas, wherever you are in the world, try and go and see them, try and support them. I think it's a great thing that's happened coming out of COVID is that people have actually had time to engage with art. Have had time to go, do you know what? I've always loved to do painting, drawing, whatever. And the artists have been there to be able to facilitate it and build communities up. So that's been great to see. Going back to the Portrait Artist of the Year, they have a program on Sky Television, and for I think about 9 weeks they ran an online live draw demonstration. But I've noticed through Instagram there are one-to-one interviews the galleries are putting on with artists. There are live draw demonstrations that you can sign up to from different art organisations from around the world, and at all different levels as well, for all people at all different levels. So you don't have to be a professional artist to join these things. It's a nice mix. So you've got people just starting out mixing with people who've been doing it for a long time, and they're all learning from each other, as well as the person giving the demonstration like myself. So I'd say one of your biggest assets is each other. You can join other communities on Facebook. There's Portrait Artists UK. If you're into portraiture, I think it's like 4,000 members now. And that, when it started off, was like a little snowball. There's only a few of them to begin with, and more people joined, and then certainly with the Sky Portrait Artists of the Year, that sort of threw an awful lot more people into the mix of trying these things, and they start sharing what they've done. And the community is great because you're chatting with people doing things similar to yourself, and it's a great way of encouraging yourself and getting support that way. Rather than just looking for one person's feedback like the tutors, getting that support and guidance from other people is really, really helpful. The more information you get, the better you're going to be able to sort of filter out what's relevant to you and put it into your own artwork. Hope you're all sitting there nodding, clapping, going yeah. If you disagree, that's what the chat window's for. You can say what you like, as long as it's respectful, as long as it's polite. Let me know what you think. Have you been out? Have you seen any of the other links? I'm always open to people sharing other art resources as well. I think it's a great way of learning, both for myself but for other people as well. I'm not an oracle. I don't know everything. No artist does. We're all on that kind of learning curve with you. It's just that we might know how or have a little bit more experience, but we're always trying to push what we're doing with drawing, painting, whatever the medium is. We're always trying to sort of push ourselves that little bit forward. So yeah, if you have any other links to people that I might want to know about, or you think it might be helpful to other people, pop them down. There's a links of lots of different art books that I have on my webpage as well. If you have links to web books that you think are amazing, let me know what they are. Somebody was sharing one earlier, and I ended up getting one called "It's Lessons in Masterful Portrait Drawing." The reason why I'm looking over there because it's on the shelf. And I got that for Dad's Father's Day present. I was very happy about it, and it's a great book. And that came out from a conversation that we had on here as well. So your links are important just as much as my links are. So please do that. Please use it. If you haven't already, you can press subscribe and you can press like on the video. That would be great because that all helps pump up the algorithms and share out to more people. But it also means that you get a direct link. So every time I go live or share a video, you'll get probably an email notification to say there is a video by Lee Boyd, artist. And it's a great way of keeping in touch with what's going on. It's hard, I know, sometimes switching over from Facebook page to YouTube and blah blah blah. I feel like YouTube has got a great platform for it, for doing this specifically. We did initially started off on Facebook, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it was linked to gaming, and I couldn't figure out how not to be linked to the gaming side of it. Not that there's anything wrong with the gaming side of it, it's just I wanted it to be a pure art stream. So yeah, it had an awful lot more people jumping in and clicking on it, and I might go back and try it and try and figure out a way of it not linking to a game and it'd just be about the art podcast. So I'll try that again at some stage. But for now, I'm going to stick onto YouTube. I'm also doing this occasionally on Twitch. Twitch is a platform for gamers, believe it or not, but they actually have an art section, and you can click on there, and there are lots of different artists from all different genres, backgrounds, experiences, and people jump on there, and they're literally just working in their studio, and they've got a camera working on, so they're interesting to watch somebody else's art processes as well. There's some amazing artists on there. So if you want to go and have a play, have a look at Twitch as well. That said, coffee's in my hand. Just let everybody know that I have still got my brew. So yeah, one quick slurp. Oh, lovely. And get on with Desiree. So as you can see, or on your screen, you can see the picture on your bottom right hand side. But just beside that, I have just poke it out the side. There is the picture. I have my iPad set up, so I've got the image right beside my drawing pad, so I can see both things at the same time. You can see the size and scale that I'm drawing on. That's my hand on the page. So we're only looking at about 15 centimeters tall. It's not very big at all. But there's going to be lots of these portraits in one page, so I've got a lot of information to put into a small space. So I'm using propelling pencils for this project specifically. The one I'm using today is called Graph Gear 500. It's a 0.5mm propelling pencil, and it's an H. I don't know if you can see, if I can get the camera to zoom into my hand. Yeah, just on the very end of these pencils, they have this little indicator which you can, which you can twist, and it will twist around to different pencil grades. So it's very hard to remember what pencil grade. Camera's gone off again. Very hard to remember what pencil grade you've got in your pencil as you're drawing. So these are really handy to have. You can load up. You can get several of them and just load up your pencils. But these cost around about £10 in UK money. I'm not sure what that equates to in the States. It can vary wherever you buy them from. I know. So I'll just get this camera back up. Still having problems with this. Hopefully, if I'm lucky enough to receive some more funding, I can get the camera that I really need for this, because that'd be awesome. I'll keep switching this camera, or it switches itself off. I have to keep switching it back on again. Okay, here we are. We're back up, I think. I just gotta be careful not to switch this off. That's the only thing. So yeah, so that'll pop back up on your screen. There I am. Perfect. There's a small delay between me talking and things happening on screen, which can kind of throw you off a little bit sometimes, because you talk about stuff and it hasn't happened. So I've got a good bit of space beside Alex's portrait to put Desiree's portrait in. I'm going to keep them roughly in line with each other, so I'm kind of getting a guide as to where these portraits are. What I like about this one is it's slightly squarer as a portrait rather than the thinner rectangle one, and so what I'm going to decide to do, I've got space enough to do this. I'm just putting some really, you won't be able to see it, it's so light because I'm drawing with an H pencil, but I'm putting a really fine pencil mark in just as a border, just so I know where that portrait's going to fit in. There's a similar proportion to my picture, so I'm not struggling with, if I'm making it thinner and I'm working on from a wider picture frame, if I take a reference, say, from the corner of the picture frame to place a head, that if I was working on a thinner frame, if I made that thinner, the proportions might change. I might sort of end up squishing the portrait in, and I want it to kind of be reflective of the image that's been sent to me, so I want to try and get the proportions right. That's to fit the fat cheeks in. Desiree, that's not true. It's to give you space. You often see it in a lot. You can crop portraits Dinner's good. Oh dear, it's gonna be fine. Don't worry, it's gonna be a beautiful portrait. Um, you'll see it in a lot of portraits where artists will crop for compositional reasons and conceptual reasons. They'll crop images to make things look or feel a certain way. So you can imagine if I put my face really close up to the screen, and that's how I was going to do this entire broadcast. It could feel a little bit intimidating, a bit overpowering. If I did it where I was just kind of hiding off to one side, it might look like I was a little bit timid and I didn't really want to be on camera. It's just about the composition and where you place them, but you can infer a certain sense of an emotion or of a feeling. These are a little bit more personal. They're your pictures. They're about you. The portraits that you're happy with. That's the important thing. And they're all, I've noticed, friendly, and I quite like that because that's really showing the true nature of you. But it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to send a smiley picture. You can send a picture of how you like to be seen. If you think back to portraits of bank managers and things like that, they're very kind of posed and composed and in authority and in control, and they're structured in that manner. When they're put in the boardroom with all the other past chairmen of the board, they're all portraits around as well. You can see a timeline of the styles of the way paintings and portraits have been done in subtle things like the clothing that they wear, or the way the things were lit, or the way they were positioned. But you'll also kind of get the feeling that all of these people are serious people because of their chairwomen or chairmen of the board. These are a little bit more personal, so there'll be of you in your environment. You can have surroundings around you. You might be just against a black wall, and it's just about your face and how you are. So there's an awful lot people can read into a portrait of a face. That's why it's a fascinating subject. Most art, to me, is a form of portraiture because you're either dealing with how somebody's vision is. So even if it's a landscape, you're dealing with either how an artist might feel about a location. If it's abstract, it's an expression of themselves. So it always comes from a personal point of view of a person, how they see things, how they notice objects, even if it's a still life, how they group things together. It lets you read a little bit more into their mind and how they think, and that's the interesting part of art, is because we're all different. We're all going to think differently. We're all going to have different things that appeal to us, and we're all going to represent them slightly differently. So there's a difference. What I'm working on is something that has a certain amount of realism to it, that it's identifiable that it is of that person, because that's what the artwork's about. It's about you. So yeah, so this is where I'm going to start today. As I say, we probably will not get this finished. If those of you who've been watching right from the very beginning will know that it's very rare that I will get a portrait done within 2 hours. When we're doing Sky Portrait Artist, that was broadcast live on the Sundays, you had 4 hours, and I kind of not forced myself but challenged myself to do those portraits in 4 hours, and it was a good exercise. Time is not the issue, though. I want to say that first and foremost. Take the time you need to create a piece of artwork. It can allow you to take a break from it so you can see it better. So when you go back to it, you can see adjustments or areas that you need to rework. You get a better perspective on it, of it. So today, what I'm going to basically do is just map things out, and I can look at things like where the top of your head is, as opposed to where the top of the frame of the picture is. I make a little mark, and I'll notice that it's not slap bang in the middle of the picture, it's just a little bit off to one side, so that's where the top of your hairline is. Space then comes in from the side, so that's the side of my picture frame. Put a little mark there. So I've got space in between these two pictures now. Maybe move it out a little bit. There we go. So I can then see how far I might need to come in. And it's a judgment at this point, but I'm only making little marks. It's easier to move these marks than it is to draw the entire head in and get sucked into too much detail too soon. I can see where your shoulder comes out from the picture frame. It doesn't start right from the very corner. It doesn't start right in the middle. It starts, and I'm going to suggest it starts around about there. All these marks might move up. There's a kind of an angle of your shoulder here, which comes across to the point of where your head meets your shoulders and your neck. And there's a kind of an angle going out that way. Again, this is really light, so I'm going to do zoom in on this a little bit. Is that better? Can you see that a little bit better? Let's wait for the camera to catch up to me drawing. So again, I'm just placing things around, and it's important to note that portraiture is not just about features, eyes, nose, ears, mouth. It's about everything else. It's about the proportions of the structures of the body that supports the head and things that are around it. You can play with them if you mean to, by making heads larger and bodies smaller, if it's a conceptual thing you want to try and get across. But there's a balance to, let's have a look, see if this is working there. I'm just looking at the camera, it's having a bit of a struggle to try and focus onto nothing. I'm going to leave my hand there for a second and hopefully the camera will settle down. As I say, there's a small delay between me doing things and it being on the camera, being on the screen. There, okay, it's a little bit better, yeah. So again, I'm just drawing lightly because I probably won't get this mark in the right place straight away. I can see where your shoulder comes out from the other side, and I'm noticing that where it comes out of the picture frame is slightly lower than this side, but ever so slightly, and there's a sharp angle going up before it actually reaches the turn of your shoulder, which comes up this way. So what I'm working out here is proportions in my picture frame to see if they're right first before I'm getting stuck into placing things. I can use the negative space, the actual space around your head, to help me see where your head goes. So what I mean by that is where I'll look at this shape going around your head, so from your shoulder going up to your neck. It's kind of a nice straightish line, it's slightly leaning to the left there, and then you've got this lovely angle where the back of your hair meets your neck, and there's a space there, and then it goes up straight a little bit, and then it goes back over that way a little bit before it reaches the top where your hairline is. So what I can see is that negative shape. Can you see that? And I can then judge that against this shape here, and I can tweak a little bit. And now I know I'm putting straighter lines in than they are in the actual portrait, but there are indications as to the angles of things, the shape of the structure of things. Angela, good morning. How are you? Good to see you here. So yeah, so we've got Angela, for you have met Desiree. Desiree, this is Angela. So Desiree, I think you were the very first one to send your portrait through, and then unfortunately I couldn't find it on my messenger page. So you very kindly sent me through this week, so we managed to get you on the page. Next week I think I've got a picture from Leslie. Excuse me, that sent one out to me. And then I haven't got any more. So if you are interested in doing this, do send your pictures to me via Messenger on my Lee Boyd Artist page, and we can get you into part of this. But don't worry if you're not, because I'm going to let this continue until this page is filled up. And So it's not necessarily, oh, what I'm going to do next week because I have run out of portraits to do. I can carry on with lots of other stuff as well. Oh, see, that's what I like in chat when people say hello to each other. It's really good. So, yeah, there's a lovely angle. It comes down at the top of your head that way. Now, I'm sight sizing. I'm going from what I can see on the page to my drawing page, so what I can see, basically where you can see the picture of Desiree there. I've got my iPad set up with that picture, so I'm literally bouncing between the two. If I zoom out and go up a little bit, maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Hopefully get that to focus. There we go. So yeah, I'm bouncing between the two, and I'm using my eyes to kind of guide me as a rough indication, and I'm not worrying about it, as to if it's perfect or not just yet. Desiree, it will be perfect when it's finished, and it'll look amazing. So yeah, I'm looking at angles of things. If you're unsure and you feel, oh, this is, that looks easy, but I can't do that, what you can do is you can lay your pencil. I just flick around to the iPad. You can lay your pencil on different angles of things. So that angle I've just done from the top of the head, and you can transfer that pencil line over to the top of the head, and you can then put a line in. So you can use the angles of pencils on your page to take the attitude or the angle of the object that you're drawing, and just take the pencil angle away and put it on your page and draw a line, and it helps you transfer some simple lines. The more you do it, you're actually training your eye to see the lines and shapes of things, and that becomes a lot easier as you do more of it. I'll put you back up there. So you can see I'm doing the same thing for this line down here. It's almost in line with this one here, and then there's a curve there. I think this line may be coming in a little bit. So I won't get it right perfectly straight away. I'm sure that other artists out there laughing their socks off at the minute, because I've seen some amazing artists do this so effortlessly, and they just put the perfect, what appears to be the perfect line in so easily, because they do an awful lot more painting of portraits than I would do, and it becomes almost effortless for them. It's not effortless. What the illusion is, that looks so amazing when somebody just walks up to a canvas and just puts a mark down and it's in the right place. It's the hours and hours of practice, and the trial and error, and all the questioning whether this is right or wrong. But there's also a flexibility built in to their drawing and painting process, that you'll see them slightly adjust it as they progress the drawing as well. So I haven't seen anybody do a drawing or a painting with every mark being perfect all the way through. Never seen it. I don't think it's ever existed. There is always refinement to a picture, and it's a development process. So take that pressure off of trying to be right all the time, because you will get there. It'll just take a little bit of time in doing the drawing itself. I'm looking at this line now of your portrait, just of where roughly that side of your cheek is, and there's a slight angle here, comes down, and then we hit the shoulder coming out that way, and then it comes down this way. Oh, it comes up there. So as I said, all these things are an adjustment, but already we've got sort of the composition of where the head and the shoulders are going to be. Slightly more rounded there. I'm going to take references from shapes like that. This is like a lovely triangle, using the corner of the page, or the corner of the portrait that I'm working on. Let's zoom that back a bit so you can see. So very quickly we've got the size, the head, the shape of the body, and I can reflect back to my reference. There is no detail in this. I have not worried about, have I got the person, do they look like themselves? I'm looking at structures. This is the architecture of the drawing. This is the basic foundation building blocks of the drawing that you won't see in the final portrait, and that's how I did Kathy's portrait, that's how I did Alex's portrait, and that's how I'm going to do this portrait. So I know it might seem a bit repetitive, but even the process of going over some of the same things, and you know, I don't know when it comes to each portrait that I might be doing something slightly different in the technique. It's not until you actually start doing it that you can kind of go, oh, I need a different texture for that. How am I going to do that texture? I'm already looking at sort of the top that you have on, and noticing those very, very fine lines, and I'm thinking about, oh, how could I get those textures? I'll always have a page off my drawing that I can figure things out with, but through experience you kind of pick or remember how to get certain textures of things, so I can look at that and think, oh, I could try that, that or that. Let's see later on how that'll look. So I might think, if I slice a plastic eraser, maybe one of the standard plastic erasers, like that, and slice that with a skull blade, I might get a very, very thin edge, and I might be just be able to draw a line. Or I might use the Tombow eraser. It's a lovely drawing tool. There we go. So the Tombow mono erasers, you can see the links to that on my website. So what lines? The lines on your shirt, your top that you have on, so like a striation line on your right hand side on your shoulder. So you've got some coming from this angle, and then some coming down from that angle, and they follow the shape and form of the top. So they're really good instructional marks to help you build the idea of form. I know you were thinking about lines somewhere else. Don't worry. This is the thing about portraiture. When you get commissioned to do portraiture, people will often say, "Be kind to me. Don't, you know, can you change this, or can you change my chin?" Yeah, you thought I meant the face. No, I meant the lines on your top. So yeah, people will often say, like, "Can you take this out? Can you make that?" And you can soften the elements, but I never take them away. I leave them in, and the reason why I leave them in is because it's you, and it makes you unique, and that's what's interesting about, you know, looking at different people, is that they have different marks and shapes to their faces, and that's what fundamentally is most interesting in portraiture for when people look at it. People can stylize things to a point. I've seen it happen where everybody looks like they've had LA plastic surgery, and they all look very, very. You saved that one well. Thank you very much, Desiree. Yeah, but I've seen it in portraiture where people kind of almost airbrush everything out. They haven't used an airbrush, but they've kind of toned everything out to look very plastic, and they stop looking like human beings, and then start looking like Stepford Wives. Like, remember the film where everybody is very kind of mannequin-like, and I want to keep the humanity in the portraits, and the way you do that is by being honest to where the placement of things are. So especially when people sort of maybe a little bit self-conscious about things like their nose, it's no different to anybody else's nose, but it's part of uniquely charactered, and then you should own it and love it of yourself as well. I have lovely crow's feet smile lines. They're hereditary. I wasn't born with them, but I've noticed that on my dad's side of the family, we also have this furrowed brow that looks like plough lines going across your forehead. But it's part of our character, so you can easily identify in the crowd. But there's elements of your face which is of you and your past generations, which is something you should hold on to, and they're important to sort of put in. Yeah, so yeah, be proud of them. Be proud of every mark. I can now look at this and go, okay, there is a lovely fringe you have. and I can have a look at that as a shape because it frames the top of your face really well. And what the location of it is, doesn't go right across the face, but I can place little markers to where maybe your chin coat goes, and it doesn't start in line with these points, it's just slightly below it, which is about, I'm going to put that about there. And what I'm using is that point and guide myself to where the point of your chin will be. I'm not drawing a line around your chin because there isn't one on the picture. It's all about shadows. Often when people see you draw a face, they'll draw the oval shape if they're looking straight on, and this line of where this oval shape goes, can't see it because I've got a beard, but the line where this oval shape goes ends up becoming the chin, and often that line doesn't exist. It's accumulation of light on the shape of your face creating shadows, and depending on how you're lit, that line might be very harsh, or it might transfer into a larger shadow that goes right the way around the side of your face. So I just need a position of it so I can get what they call the attitude or the angle of your face and how you're turning, because I can see more of your right hand side of your face and less of your left, because you've got your head slightly to one side, which is nice pictorially as well, a 3/4 view. Often when you get people do a picture, they look like they've been stood against the wall and they're about to be shot, and it's very, very flat and stiff. So if you're composing somebody, I often think it's really handy, if you're taking reference photographs as well, is to have the camera in your hand and don't look through it, kind of have it pointing towards them, and just press the shoot button, let it click on. Especially with digital cameras, you can delete all of the pictures bar one that you need. So if you just have it clicking, you can just chat and talk to them. They'll start to relax because they get used to the sound of the camera taking photographs, and they're not so much aware or worried about this camera anymore. And as you can talk to them, you can move the camera around a little bit, and it helps kind of get them used to having their photograph taken so they can relax. Often is people sort of tense up and look like rabbits straight into the camera, and what's nice is you've got your head turned, but you kind of just caught the glimpse of the viewer of having the photograph taken. You know, how people hold the camera up, how light might hit their face, it adds a little bit more interest. I think sort of a very, very flat, stiff portrait. Imagine if I came on screen and I went, "Good morning, everybody," and it would be it wouldn't be as, I'm not saying I'm doing it for entertainment purposes, but it would be more lifelike for me to be like I am than to be that stiff and straight. So when you're composing pictures or when you're looking for pictures like that, even if you're looking for magazines, just references to draw from, start to identify about what it is about the portraiture that you like. Why is it you've chosen it? Is it the lighting? Is it the composition? Is it how the person is interacting with the camera, so they're interacting with the viewer of the picture? Or is it that they're distracted and doing something else and it's allowing you into their world without them? It's a bit voyeuristic. We kind of, it's allowing you into their world to kind of see it from a distance. So if you think of anything in the portrait, there's a beautiful portrait, and it's called A Laundress by Toulouse-Lautrec. It's a lovely painting. It's of a laundress who is scrubbing dishes or scrubbing shirts, and she's in obviously a basement, and there's a basement window. There's just a bit of light coming in, and you can't see her face. It's got back turned towards you, and she's kind of washing the clothes, but she's looking up, and it's kind of aspirational. She's wanting to get outside. It's a beautiful day outside, and she's inside. And you're kind of urging her to escape a little bit. Now, this is me personally reading into the picture, but that's what art is. It allows you to engage with it, to see what you want to see in it. I'm sure Toulouse-Lautrec had a different vision for the work, or things that interest him about the pictorial content that he was interested in, and they're interesting to find out about. But a narrative device, especially with people, you tell a story in some way. and that is always interesting. So if you're looking through magazines, start to identify why is it you like certain pictures. What is it about it that makes you want to emulate it, and start putting that into your work. The more you become conscious about that, the more you've got control over it, and things you can change or tweak or add to it if you want. So yeah, so that's the reason why I want to find out the angle of your face there, and I can start to see that it's not straight down because you're not looking straight at us. It's off to one side, so I can kind of see that there is about a third of your face on the right hand side and 2/3 on the left of your face. This line might come in a little bit more, I think, so I'm just going to do that. As I change things, I can rub things out as well as I go along. Looser, faster, quicker sketches, quite gestural and things like that, you can leave some of those marks in because they look quite interesting. As we're wanting to do something that is more representational, there is no point leaving that line in there if it's wrong. As I draw, rub it out. As you can see, I'm drawing very, very lightly, so I'm using an H, so I'm not pushing the pencil into the paper. I'm just lightly layering it on the surface, so it's very easy to rub out. So when I do rub out, again, I only have to kind of lightly skip that pencil eraser over the surface to remove the graphite. I'm not having to scrub the paper. And what that does, it allows the surface to remain intact. If I start scrubbing it because I got frustrated, I'm going to destroy the surface of the paper. So when I put graphite on top of it, it'll start to be a bit fluffy. If you rub too hard and keep rubbing and rubbing and rubbing, you'll go through the paper. So to alleviate that, draw lightly, rub out lightly. The type of paper that I use is a cartridge paper. I think this one is a heavyweight. I think this is about 230 gram. So it's quite a good cartridge paper, and it's smooth. But I'm not gonna worry if I don't get things right at this point. What I'm trying to do is find the adjustment of where things are, so I can get basic angles and shapes kind of right. I notice there's a lovely angle that comes down from. Camera's gone off again. Hang on. The lovely angle that comes down from the cheek to the bottom of the chin, so it allows me to know where the shape is. I think I might have that a little bit too harsh, so I might put that there. There's a shadow above it as well. It comes up this way. So I'm looking at shadow shapes just as much as I am of features of things. So you can see that the right hand side of your face is in shadow as opposed to the left hand side. I'll just get this other camera up. I don't know, you might not want to see me at all. Fingers crossed, as I said, I can get some bit of extra funding and get this new camera. It's a great camera that I've got doing this. This is the reason why I'm using it. It's a Canon EOS 700D, but I've had it for a few years, and the software for it doesn't link in with doing this kind of webcam work. It's a great camera for taking reference photographs, and that's what I use an awful lot. But the new models are all set up for doing kind of Wi-Fi work as well, so you can stream directly to whatever you're doing. Bit of technical information there. If you're interested in starting your own stream, you can ask me questions about that as well. Has anybody ever done, I've got to ask you guys, have you ever streamed anything before? Or been involved with streaming? There we go. Back up and back. Close that other window down. I've noticed on others like guys who've been doing this for a long time, they have a team of people doing all this for them as well. There's guys working, sort of doing their camera work, guys doing all their chat for them as well, and they're literally just doing their thing, and everybody else is changing the lights. We're not at that stage. I kind of like it. It's just personal this way as well. Right, so yeah, getting back to this portrait. So I was talking about that angle. Um, it allows me to kind of get the idea where this three-quarter view is on the head, and I can kind of follow angles of the shadow that is kind of created. Which allows me to kind of follow it's not a central line because it's off to one side, but follow this center of where your face is, um, which takes me to where roughly your eyebrow is. So I've got a very light line going down center there, and then a very light line is to let me know where that eyebrow's going. Above it, got an angle of your forehead kind of covered by hair there, because it's a lovely triangle shape. And then there's a general fringe line going across this way, and it follows the shape of your head. Go to this side, and then I can see proportionally that's where the bridge of your head, your eye orbit is on there, and you can see where this eyebrow comes in from this side. Now it's not that you have one eye higher than the other, but if I turn my head towards you, this side is closer, and natural perspective will mean that this look is further away, and it will follow a perspective that it can look on a flat plane as I'm drawing these marks out like one's higher than the other. It's not, because your head is round, as everybody's head is. As you turn something around, it goes away in the distance, and it's at a different perspective. So this is why we create kind of that illusion of a head turning. If you follow these, often people put a head that's in three quarters and they'll put all the facial features like looking straight towards you, and that's where things can go a little bit awry, where they're trying to supplant what they know about faces, especially when you've looked at or if you've studied in books proportions of a face. Eyes go in the middle, then there's a nose between the eyes and the chin, and they stick to those rules because that's how they've been taught that's what a face looks like. And it often isn't the face that they're drawing. It's an idealized, stylized version of a face that looks straight on. If you're drawing somebody who's got the head turned, slightly tilted, those angles don't quite line up. Now, what you can do is start thinking in three dimensions. If you think that this is a three-dimensional space, that this is where the skull is, and that the jawline is here. You can put those two ovals together, and you can start to articulate it, and you can start to draw out where those eye lines are actually going, that they go around the face. So they're not in a straight line, but they're following an axis of a curved line. You can see how sort of lovely and curved the eye orbit is in your picture on this one, how far it comes out to here. I could put a little angle of where that comes in. So this was initially a straight line. Now I can break this line down into angles of where your cheekbone comes out, and then it drops down to your cheek. And then the curve that comes around and softens it a little bit. I can start to see these structural marks and sizes of eyes, etc. I'm not drawing the eye in. What I'm doing is drawing marks. So this is actually the top of your eyelid, not the top of your eyeball. That makes sense. And the angle that these come up at, it helps me see space between that mark and here where the corner of your eye is and where the other one starts. See that space, because that is the bridge of your nose going up the one side going across the bridge, and then down the other side. I can't see down the other side because you've got your head turned, but I get to see space, so I can see sort of structure lines of where that eyebrow is, and it creates this kind of triangular bit between this line of where the eye goes up to the top of your eyelid. You've got another line which creates the shape kind of there. This line goes up and it curves around. It's a lovely arc. It curves around the top of there. I often try and see shapes in the things that I'm drawing, so to me that looks like a lovely bird head. And it sounds weird, but you'll start to see shapes and angles and lines of things that visually remind you of something else, but if you draw the lines and shapes and angles of the things that you see in your portrait, they become correct in the proportions of the face that you're drawing. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but I've said to people before, oh, you see that triangle? It looks a bit like an ice cream cone, and they've just gone, yeah, and it's become a shape of a shadow on a cheek. Now, you don't have an ice cream cone on your cheek, it's a shape of a shadow. So if you can visually remember the form and shapes of things and transport those rather than trying to draw a nose, a mouth, an eye, because you'll get caught up in doing the minutiae of detail when you haven't figured out where these things are going yet. So at the minute that's way too dark, so I'm going to take that out a little bit. Just going to knock it back by going over. The line's still there, but I just want to get the shape and angle of things right first. Maybe I need to go up a little bit on that line. And then it comes out. This goes over this way. I think I need to bring that in a little bit. Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I just had that over to the left hand side a little bit too much. I'm going to take this back out. So I've got the kind of shape of that eyebrow in. Now I'm putting it in a line at the moment, and it'll be a lot softer than that. It's just an indication of where, again, it's just to help me locate angles and shapes of things. As this comes out from there, it comes down. There's more space to the side of the head, so I might find that this comes back over here a little bit more. So I built a flexibility into the drawing that, okay, you can see how that comes down that side. I'm going to take this out. So I've adjusted it. So this is like one of the very first lines I put in. It just means that this might come over a little bit more. But there's flexibility. I've got space in between the two portraits there. I'm going to put this line back down here. And I can take this line I had in originally and take that out. Take that one out. So all these things have a knock-on effect. If you change something, it might have a knock-on effect of something else. Don't get frustrated at yourself going, oh, if I move that, that's going to move, and oh, I have to do that again, I have to do that again. It's okay. This is a part of the process. You adjust things around until they start to settle and they coalesce and they are the right shape and they're in the right location. If you move a hairline and a headline, but you don't move the rest of the body that you've already drawn in with it, it will make start to look a bit kind of uncomfortable or weird. So don't go into detail too much too soon in one area, because you might find that until you draw the rest of it and figure out where the rest of it is, you might have to shift that. You know, if we draw in, say, somebody wearing a shirt and a tie, you've drawn their collar, shirt and tie beautifully, and it's over here, but now when you've drawn the head, it's over here. You have to move that with it. Do you see what I mean? If you go into too much detail in an area, or you start rendering way too soon, until you know where things are, it's gonna sort of kind of throw a spanner in the works for you a little bit. So try not to get caught out with that. I'll put this line back in now. So there's a light hint that comes through there. There's a light hint that comes through there. There's a lovely line that comes around, which is very it's just a way that goes over the shoulder into the top, and then the top comes down this way. It's a good sort of structural mark to help me give proportion and shape to this face as well. I think this comes down a little bit further. To there. Take this line out. That was the previous shadow mark that I had in to give me an indication where the shadow was. I'm actually going to leave until I've dot out, but I'm going to leave this shadow line in. I don't know if you can see it. There's like two lines there now. The second line is actually a shadow line for a shadow shape, which I can go into at a later stage. Is this helping? You can let me know. If it's what you thought, great. If it's not, let me know. And if you've got a question to ask or a problem that you have when you're drawing, this is the time to ask. You know, don't wait. You can ask at any point. I think he's just readjusting himself from where he'll at the minute. There we go. Saturday. Good. Yeah, this is the place to ask. So if this is working for you, great. Don't forget if you can press subscribe or press like on the video, that'd be great too. If you know of anybody who is interested in drawing and want to give it a go and they're not too sure and all the rest of it, introduce them to this. You know, share it with your mates and things that they might want to drop in and have a go themselves. Also, it would be nice to do this in a coffee shop one day. I wonder if I get sponsored by a coffee company. I'm not looking for sponsorship, by the way. I just thought it'd be nice to do this in a coffee shop and drink coffee and chat with people. But we'll see. Again, new mic set up today and new headphones and things. This sounds an awful lot better for me. I'm hoping that it sounds better for you as well. So let me know if the sounds level's okay. Obviously, I haven't got perception of actually hearing what you hear, but I know that different mics can sound slightly differently. I think this sounded like a little bit of a softer feel when I kind of play around with it before. Sometimes you get microphones and sound incredibly tinny. You're starting to get drawn to do portraits of people who have done fantastic things but have remained under the radar. Yeah, what a great conceptual thing for a range of portraits. You can think about that think about the guy who started the internet. Who was he? You know, that's the guy who invented the web. It takes you to kind of understand that there are people doing amazing things every day, thanklessly, who don't try and make billions out of it and extort money from people and put pressures on people. They are giving, and their inventions, their ideas and the way of thinking can change everybody's lives for the good. How we use it is a different matter. I think the guy who invented the pacemaker is from Lisbon in Northern Ireland. or maybe the first place where it was done. Not too sure which one it was. Which is it's frustrating because you suddenly realize how important these things are, and that you know so little about them. So I think that is a really interesting conceptual idea, to do portraits of people who you should know. So yeah, interesting. And it might not be on that grandeur scale. It might be just somebody who's done something as an amazing feat of being a human. Like I think you drew you drew a climber. Is that right? What was his story? Why did you choose him? You know, this is a good place to talk about it. Think about how you can portray them, parts of the character. What are they like? Can you get interviews with them? Can you is there information now on YouTube where you can watch a video of them and see how they move around? Can you take a screenshot from that? Can you play around with it a little bit? Can you add elements of what they did to their portraiture? You know, maybe as a background, or put a little bit of symbolism in some form of symbolism is an interesting subject where certain objects have relevance to certain things. So a lily, for example, is a reflection of death. So if somebody's carrying a lily, they're carrying the loss of a loved one, or things like that. So it's how you, I'm not saying it has to be that dark, it could be a little bit lighter than that, but you can use a symbol from why they are noteworthy and add that to the portraiture as well. So it might not be in the reference picture you have, but you start to construct your references together to create your portrait. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Open this one back out a little bit. I think I've had this coming down a little bit too sharp, and I think it comes around a little bit softer than that. So I'm going to bring that around there. And where this comes out, it's almost in line with the hair before it starts to come down in this direction. And there's this slight turn to get to the bottom of the neckline on that side. That was going too sharp that way, so I'm going to slowly bring it down. You see my two lines. That was my initial line going off in that direction, and now it's going off in this direction. Slight adjustment, but it can mean a lot when you're doing the rest of the picture. Also helps you locate other things as well. Obviously it needs to catch up with this, so you can imagine a line that we can't see going across the bottom, and how that will come across that way and curve around that way. So we can't quite see the join of these two lines, but we can imagine it. There's a lovely line just here. Which is not quite halfway, but it's a little bit up from there. Just giving you the base of where the neck is. And there's another line that comes up here for the shadow line, and the shadow line comes down that way for the shadow line. So when we talked about the center of this face, I can kind of construct it from where the shadows are before I hit certain features. You can use elements now where I've put, say, this hairline. If I followed right the way across, what do I hit? So when I look at the reference picture, I'll start from that point and say to myself, okay, that might be too high up this way. If the hairline comes out here, the gap that I have here isn't that big. You know, if I compare it and have a look at where the hairline comes up, I've got maybe that hairline stopping way too high up. That in fact was almost where the ear is, and so below that is where the hair is. So I can put that line in again and bring that back up. And if I go straight across from that hairline, I actually hit the corner of the mouth, so I can put a little indication of where that might be there. I'm going to open that out and just slightly round that off a little bit. Bring that down here. Now again, these are quite linear drawing elements. When I start building up the tones, some of these lines are going to disappear into the shapes of the shadows, so you're left with a whole entire area. So say for example I start to put in where the bridge of this nose is, where I'm doing the shadow of it, so, and it comes round to the tip of the nose this way, and then there's the top lip, and you've got the mouth coming in, that way, it comes around the bottom of the lip that way, and then it curves around that way. So this whole part of the face is going to be in shadow, apart from this maybe a little bit of highlight just on here. But what I could do is, now I've got that shadow shape in, I might refine it a little bit and bring that in this side. So again, this is all about adjustment. I'll bring that side in. And where we had a little bit of light catches this side of the cheek as well. Creates that kind of triangular shape just there, which goes straight up. There's a little bit of catches just here, a lovely line on the outside of the nostril to a lovely light. Yeah, we left a line there, very thin triangle shape here. At this stage, people often get sort of going, oh, it looks very chunky and it looks very flat. Again, it should. This is literally the shape of things, not the actual person that we're drawing. We're finding the structure of the head to create the illusion of 3 dimensions, the believability that this is a physical head, a physical form, a physical being. And I need to kind of figure out where the form and shape of those things actually are. I can sort of see where that is straight going across there. So shapes of eyebrows, etc., where they start and stop. Might give me a top of where that eyelid is. It's a lovely curve. Lovely round eyes you have, Desiree. That curves around this side. It doesn't come to the edge of the face, it stops before there. Again, this isn't the eyelid. Sorry, the what we'd normally see is the eye is the kind of the pupil and the kind of almond shape. This isn't it. I'm drawing the eye. This is what always the eye socket is, and slowly round eyelid that's on top. This is the arc of over the top of it. Because I want to get that kind of structural shape right first, because it'll help me figure out where this bridge of the nose is going, because this joins it there. This is the side of the head, and how far that line comes out this side, and then I can put that arc in. Do you see what I mean? I'm finding out where places are relevant to other places. When I draw the rest of the eye in, you'll see that when I do the eyelid, it'll create the actual eye itself. It won't be this big. It's just where the eye socket is. Maybe we could just draw them in. Yeah, well, to do that, what I'm going to do is first is I'm going to shade this whole entire area really lightly, not as dark as it's going to go, but the entire area I'm going to shade, just so we get an idea that this then starts to have a 3-dimensionality to it. putting a really light layer down. Because everything on this side of the face is going to be in shadow, including the whites of your eyes. The whites of your eyes on this side of your face are going to be darker than the whites of your eyes on this side of the face. You can see underneath the nose there, it's slightly darker again. Remembering that highlighted area. Where the shadow is. Coming up. Again, that shadow on the side of the mouth here. That shadow's kind of continued all the way through. So you can see where we had that line initially, where we started to build up that shade. This is lighter than it is going to be. This is just an indicator of form. I've already put structural lines in, but we start to feel like there's one left hand side and one right hand side. No, I meant just draw the eyes, not the cheeks. They're not fat. Hopefully this camera can sit and adjust on this a little bit. So you can see that tonally this is darker than this side, but it starts to have that illusion of that's one side going around and then the next side. It's light and it's small. You mean this is a 0.5 of a millimeter, and you can see how sort of big the pencil is in comparison to the face that I'm drawing. So there's not much space to draw too much detail into this picture because it is only a small portrait. But I can put sort of certain elements in there where the corner of this eye doesn't come and touch this bridge. That's where the top of this eyelid is. The actual eye itself, the corner of the eye, starts in a little bit, but I've got a better idea of where to put that in now, so I'm going to put a little mark there, and a little mark on that side. Again, I'm going to bring it in a little bit more there, and that's where the corner of your eye is on the other side. So you can see this is the size of your the eye that we can see, that kind of almond shape. So it doesn't appear to be that big. I'm not colouring in the dark hair as dark as I need it to go, but what I can do is put a shade down on it, a tone. Again, this is an H. I'm not doing it particularly hard, it's just lightly going over the surface, but I can block in that entire area, which will help me find the tones and the shapes for the rest of the portrait as well. So you can see at the minute I'm just going in one direction. People often have an issue with hair, that think they've got to draw in all of the strands. What I tend to do is break it down into shapes and forms and highlights. So as I refine this, I go into a little bit more detailed stage by stage, but I normally kind of at the first stage block in this whole area. I've got a line there that I had where I thought the back of the hair was, and the line coming down to the neck, it was too high up, so get rid of that. Block that in. So I'm concentrating on getting a nice kind of flat area. I'm going in one direction, I'm not kind of shading one way for a little bit and then swapping around going in another direction. The camera's gone off again. Sorry, let's lean over the cat. But you can start to see how even very basically that you can build up the change of depth and things. I've not put details of eyes, nose and mouth, but you get to see proportionally where these things are, so I can move things around a little bit at this stage, where if I go, okay, I've got the chin too long or too high up, or made it too wide or too thin, I've got that flexibility to move and adjust until it starts to coalesce and settle down in, and when it does, you visually see it and go, that's right. I can carry on with now developing textures and developing tonal outwork because the structure of it's right. So I don't want to go on to the next stage until I get the structure of things and the placement and where things are. Hopefully that makes sense. Guys, you got any questions? You quite happy? Let me know. Yeah, sorry, I was fixing out that other camera. Go. Look up here. I wish there was one button that could do all this for me. I could just sort it all out, but there isn't. Sorry for the stop-startiness of this broadcast because of cameras switching themselves off. Hey, we're back. So yeah, all I've basically done is give a nice kind of even coverage of a tone all over that large area. I'm going to come down this side as well. I know this is a lot darker, but rather than putting the harsh darks in straight away, I allow them to sort of build up with the portrait. So yeah, you can see I'm shading in the same direction. I'm not bouncing all over the place, shading in different directions, because you'll end up creating like a texture which you won't want in one place. You know, as later on as I go along, I can maybe curve some of these shadings to create a form or a block or a shape of a piece of particular shape of a hair. You know, one of these curves. I can play around with those things, but at the moment I just want to give an indication of where those things are. A lovely line just about there, which is kind of going up to the corner of the eye. It's quite straight, that one I'm talking about, and then it's got a lovely angle coming off of it, but it just gives me space about, maybe it's a bit further over. Yeah, just there. You can hear me kind of having little conversations in my head occasionally to go, yeah, no, up, yeah, and it's me going, where does this need to go? Up, down, to the right a little bit, yeah. And I verbally say it out. I do the same thing when I'm by myself in the studio. It's a conversation that you're having with your eyes almost. Is this the right place? Yeah. Is that mark? Is that there? Don't need to go over there a bit more. Maybe. Oh, maybe it needs to come down a wee bit. Yeah, maybe. And if I'm having those conversations, I'm going from my eye to my pencil a lot quicker. The brain's not getting too much involved. It's just very, very simple, up, down, left, right, to adjust things. Where if I assume what an eye looks like, and I've got an eye is round, and I've got a corner of the thing, and I've got people, I'm thinking about what I think an eye is, not what I can see. when I'm adjusting things, I'm looking at it going, if I move that there, is that too far away from here? If that's too far away from here, how far away is that? Is that in the right place? Or maybe this comes over here a little bit more and it's a little bit there. So if that's there, is this that needs to come there? And if it's that's there, that means that angle's there. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of, it's just small adjustments, but in relationship to everything else in the picture. You know, when we talked about this is where the hair of the back of the head comes down behind the neck. But if I carry and go straight across from there, I should hit the corner of the mouth. But then I can look at the picture, reference picture, and say, okay, where is the corner of the mouth? If I went straight up from the corner of the mouth, what do I hit? I can kind of hit. There's the top of that line of. So if you can look at your screen now, if you go from the corner of your mouth straight up, you almost hit the top of this line here. You hit about there. So what I could do is come straight down. Where these two marks converge, put a little mark there to give an indication where I think the mouth is at this point. It helps me kind of then place, there's a lovely curve to your top lip, and then it comes around to this point. So if this corner of the mouth comes in a little bit, and then the curve comes around that way a little bit before I hit the top of your lip there, and then it comes down that way a little bit. So I get to now know roughly where the top of your lip is. I can look at your nose and go, okay, the tip of your nose is about there. And this nostril, which goes off in this direction, is about there. It's only about, I can adjust it and move it around a little bit. I'm not drawing the entire nose or the entire mouth. There's a lovely line which goes from the corner of your mouth, which is now that's the corner of your mouth there. That's where the line goes up that cheek, and it reaches a point at the top of your nostril, which is also in line with this part of your mark for that eye orbit, and that line's vertical. It kind of comes straight down there. Then there's a line that comes down this way, and that gives me an idea where that nostril is. So these are only sort of guidelines at the moment, and I might move, by looking at that, I think I would move that down a little bit, it's about there. And then that line comes right the way down to that point, and it comes down roughly to there. Allows me to know that the chin might come down a little bit more, which might have a knock-on effect to the top of this lip. I don't want to do that just yet. So you can see that you can build an awful lot of information in relatively quickly with not trying to be specific about where things are definitely going to be. I can hit the top of this eye line now, and the top of this eye line. So I've gone a bit quiet. I've just sort of looking at where these locations are. Rather than drawing the pupil, what I'm going to try and draw is the shape of the sclera, the white of the eye. That shape on the right hand side, I'm going to try and draw that rather than draw the pupil, just to get the proportions of this eyeball right. And then do the other side as well with a very, very thin slither that we can see. Now that's got to meet up with these lines and angles, and I might have this too low down, might need to move the entire eye up, but just to help people kind of see shapes. Yeah. So I think my eyes drifted to the left a little bit, so I'm going to rub that back out. I'm not afraid to move the entire thing, because this is where it needs to go. And I was noticing that as I was drawing it, the eye was getting slightly bigger and it was starting to move off to the left a little bit. When I started looking at the placement of where it had things I was happy with, like the eyebrow and the eye orbit ridge and this top mark here, this eye kind of navigated down here somewhere. If you're not aware of it, when you step back you'll see it straight away, or when you take a break. So it's important not to get, say, sucked into doing too much detail too soon. If I'd continued with the eyeball and went into things like where the pupil was and where the highlights of on that eyeball were, may have drawn a beautiful eye, it might be in the wrong place, and then I would have to just rub it out because it wouldn't look right. What I want to do is try and create this portrait. So I'm going to give space to certain things. So let's clean that off a little bit, make that a little bit cleaner. So where does this eye start? If I think, yeah, this is throwing me out a little bit. I think this hairline over here goes back a little bit more. And it comes off that way. So there's a lovely shadow just at the bottom of this eye. On this side. I come across it, should hit the same shadow here. It's a little bit further up. Done a slight angle, this is slightly closer on this side. You see that? It's only a smidgen. This is a smidgen lower than this side. Might look a bit weird and a bit sort of zombie-like because there's no pupils in it at the moment. But it's about working out structures and shapes of things. So when this comes up and around, and I've got this bit that comes down this way, but this is a little shadow. That little shadow kind of comes up here. And it moves that way. So what I'm doing at the minute is like ghosting. So I'm doing it in a very small area. I'm having to sort of slow my breathing down so I'm not moving in and out with each breath. So it gets hard to talk and draw on the smaller scale sometimes. But I'm kind of ghosting that shape. I'm not drawing. I'm kind of following the shape, but once with my eyes, looking at the reference, and then trying to follow it with my pencil before actually putting the pencil on the paper. I can just help you sort of build up that little bit of muscle memory you need just to put a line down. And you can step away. This is it's starting to be a better shape of the eye, and then now I can look at that, concentrate on that kind of shape that I was talking about of this side of the white of the eye, and think about that as a shape rather than drawing a pupil. And do the same now for this side. There's a little tiny straight bit just there. So that's better proportioned. I don't think it's perfect just yet, but we're at the early stages of the drawing, and obviously as I carry on with it, it'll refine itself and develop. So I don't want to do too much to that at the moment, but just to help me do the similar thing on the other side, just to help you find the location of things. Lovely angular line here, which comes back up and makes this bit. Then there's a line that comes down here, which is where the corner of the eye is, and then this is straighter across here, and the curve starts there, the corner of the eye. You've got this very thin, small triangle on that side. You see that? Comes across that way. Put that highlight back in. Underneath there is a shadow, which meets up that way. And this eye putting very light indication that it's obviously the pupils of the eyes are not leaving you with these zombie eyes looking out. But again, this is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination just yet. What I'm looking for is placement of where things are, and I can sit back and I can review it and I can have a look at it and I can go, oh no, that whole thing needs to move up, and I don't mind rubbing it out and moving it up, because nothing is concrete yet, nothing is fully resolved until I start to place other elements of the drawing. So this is the element people tend to get frustrated at, because they'll draw what they think is something perfectly correct, and as they get on with the drawing they realise, it's just not in the right place, or it's the wrong shape, or I've had that too curved, or how can I move that? And there becomes a fear or unwillingness to move things around a little bit, and that's the thing that's kind of frustrating or trips you up in a portrait, that if you don't move things around a little bit, if they're in the wrong place, they will look like they're in the wrong place. You can't kind of fudge it. Allow the drawing to develop. So I think this is a little bit too high up, and the mark needs to come down a little bit, because we have a dark marker that way. It's almost like a little triangle of darkness just there. That allows me to carry on this way. I'm kind of looking at this triangular shape now with the face. It's kind of breaking shapes down into the basic forms, if that's helpful. You're also looking at a slightly skewed angle as well. Rather than I'm looking at it straight on, you're looking at it from sort of this kind of camera angle, looking at the portrait. So there might be a slight skewedness to it, but hopefully when you put them all flat in front, you'll kind of see it'll flatten it out a little bit for you. At this stage with HB, charcoal found its scratchy starting experience and didn't get gliding as it would from graphite. Any tips? Use the HB. Are you using Natrum or are you using the General's pencil? What you can do is sometimes it can be a binding agent within the charcoal. They'll use it to mix it up with, I think it's like a ball clay they use. If it starts to feel scratchy, just clean off the surface of your charcoal pencil on a piece of wet and dry emery paper. I use sort of a 600 P600 grade. It's very, very fine, but sometimes it can help kind of just refine the surface of the charcoal. That can help sometimes, and then just rub it on a piece of cotton wool pad or kitchen towel just to clean off any excess, and possibly start that again. It will feel less scratchy as you continue with the charcoal, but it is a different medium. Graphite is very slick. It kind of passes over each other in a very kind of fluid motion. Charcoal is different. It's a different medium, and you're dealing with sort of rather than plates, molecular plates of graphite, you're dealing with chunky blocks of charcoal, and that's why it can feel that little bit more scratchy. So it's kind of normal. But hopefully, if you kind of refine the surface, make a smooth surface, it should flow a little bit easier for you. But try that out. You can start with a harder charcoal pencil as well. You can get harder charcoal pencils going up to the H ranges. That again, very, very lightly can put down a very light application that you've got flexibility to move around, and then you can build up to an HB, and then you can build up to the Bs and go darks with that as well, especially with the compressed charcoal blocks as well, with a very, very black. They're almost pastel like, but you can mix pastels with your charcoals as well. Yeah, generally the General's pencils are some of the better charcoal pencils out there. And I certainly use them in my work, but I found sometimes the glue that binds the charcoal to the wood, there's a lot of it for some reason. Maybe it's just the manufacturing process, I don't know, but I find when I'm sharpening and cleaning, sometimes if you're not sort of, if you only concentrate on the tip, on the pencil itself, there can be glue residue. So make sure when you're sharpening your pencil that keep it nice and flat and flush with the surface of the emery paper, and rotate the pencil around as you do it, and make sure that all of that is sort of taken away. So fingers crossed that helps. Try it out and see. Put first layer down, rub over gently, very lightly with a soft brush. Don't rub it into the surface, but just over the surface, and any kind of residue from the charcoal as well. Sometimes that can fall off onto the surface, and you go back over it with your pencil, and it's your charcoal pencil bouncing on the surface of sort of charcoal grit on the top. That can feel a bit scratchy sometimes as well. But yeah, try it out. Again, a lot of this is practice and experience and trying things out, and see how it goes. Does that help? All of these things might not be relevant to you right now. You know, if there's something specific that you want me to cover, let me know. Alex was talking about last week, which I'm thinking of doing, a little section on how to draw eyes, ears and noses and things. And one of the reasons why I kind of veered away from doing certain object things like eyes, ears, nose, mouth is everybody's nose, eyes, ears and mouth are different, and at different lightings and in different conditions. So, but there are kind of more graphic versions of these things which can help you break down the structures, which I might cover, just so when we are looking at a nose, we can, and this might sound stupid, what a nose actually looks like, because we'll assume we know, and it's not until we start to figure out the form of these things we start to realize like what they're made up of. So I might do a little touch on it either next week or the week after, of how certain things are structured, so we can get the idea of why we draw them in a certain way because of the physical form of them. A little bit of anatomy mixed in with a sculptural element of how we render things. So yeah, we can look at maybe doing something like that as well. If there's a certain subject matter or thing that you're drawing and you want me to cover, let me know what it is. I'll see if we can cover it. I'm basically your art slave. You know, what is it you'd like me to draw or address in the pictures? Let's put a little bit of shadow just underneath that nose. Let's see, this line from here, this is the philtrum, the little dip underneath the top of your, on your top lip, not just underneath the tip of your nose, you've got this little dip. Everybody's got it. It's called a philtrum. And there's a side of it here which has got a lovely cast shadow, and there's a little element of it just on the other side, just a curve of light, or curve of shadow even, just to give me an indication of where the tip of your nose is. To create that space. I'll put a slight darker line in there. It's because this shadow is going to be a lot darker. And that shadow shape is a little bit more refined when it goes over the top of your lip, because there's actually a lighter area between your lip and that shadow. What I can do now is follow that line out to that point and then down to that point, which gives me the top of your lip. So just refining that one line down into maybe two lines, and then that's where your little dip of your lip is. Have a look at the top lip. Comes down this angle, and where this lip stops, this angle there. This lip, bottom lip, comes down an angle that side, and comes down this way, and this way. And this lip flying there. I'm going across this way. This line again. These are all lines I'm talking about. I'm kind of building up elements of structures of where things are. But yeah, it's getting there. I think this chin needs to come down just a wee tad, or maybe this bottom lip is a little bit too low down, so I need to move that back up a little bit. Occasionally when you stop and you just even look at the screen and look back at the thing you're drawing, you start to realize, oh, that needs to go over to the right a little bit more, so move that around to the right a little bit more. And it's not by much, it's about, especially with drawing such a fine tolerance because it's a small portrait, I'm literally shifting things like a millimeter, a half millimeter. That's why I always suggest when you're starting off drawing, try and draw bigger. Don't try and draw small. This is technically a challenge. So yeah, you got greater flexibility to move things around. I normally draw on an A2 page at least if I'm drawing an A4 image. So if I'm drawing an A2 image, so I'm drawing on an A1 piece of paper or larger. It's just so I've got space to move things around. It becomes so much easier and flexible because it's much more easy to make marks of where things are and go through the process a lot quicker. When you're working with such fine tolerances, if you make a mark that's half a centimetre to the left too much on a small portrait, that's a huge difference. So you got to be careful. So it's really about almost sometimes dabbing the surface of the pencil on the paper to make marks that you need, not necessarily inscribing whole shapes. That helps. So if you are doing something this sort of scale, don't worry if it's not looking perfect straight away. It won't, because you need to adjust it lightly, and therefore you need to draw lightly to begin with. I've been talking to the camera for the past 5 minutes and realised the camera's gone off again, so I'm going to try and fix it. Here we go, live shoot. Back up, there it is. I think the longest I've been talking to a camera and not realised it's not working is probably been about 45 minutes so far. I'm sure they'll invent some sort of home stream software which you can use as like little lights, so when you know you're talking to a camera that it is actually transferring it to the screen. Because this has happened before where I've been chatting to the camera like this and explaining stuff and giving demonstrations about what I'm using, and then looked at the screen and realised I'm not on it. Complete waste of time. Okay, hopefully this is helping you guys. Let me know if there's something you're not quite getting as well. If you want me to go over something a little bit more, and let me know what it is, because I'll only carry on in my own vein of thinking if I think it's getting across. If it's not, do ask, do let me know. I don't mind explaining things 2 or 3 times in different ways to hopefully get the point across to you, if that helps. We will be carrying on with this portrait next week, so you can see it develop. I won't work on it until then. It's just so you can get to see stage by stage how we build it up. And I know this is something almost repetitive with each portrait. Each portrait is different, but you can see that using the same process allows you to create different images, if you like. So it doesn't matter if it's a portrait, it doesn't matter if it's a teacup or a landscape. You can use a similar process to create those things. Might go into sort of let's say when we start doing a bit more demonstration on how to draw an eye and nose, mouth. I'm not too sure whether to video those things and put them up separately or to do them part of this. But I can look at how I can kind of experiment with marks and maybe do a page of just mark making, so you can see that the flexibility of the mediums and how you can play with it are important to how you then apply it to, say, the portrait that we're working on, and how you can soften edges and sharpen edges and clean edges off. How you can put textures, like we were talking about the lines on the top that you have on Desiree, how you can put those lines in without necessarily having to draw them with a pencil. It might be that you lay graphite down and use a rubber to lift lines off to create the illusion. So yeah, we might work on a couple of those things as well. But if there is anything you want me to do, ask me and I'll see if I can facilitate it and let you know. We are coming up close to 1 o'clock. I hope that's been helpful for you. Please feel free to share this with people that you think might like it, or if you know if anybody's been on the course who hasn't sort of got used to Facebook or YouTube and they don't know where to look for it, you can just send them the link, share it with them. Hopefully they'll be able to watch it from there. And say if you are watching it at any other stage and you've just got a question, you can message me directly on my Facebook page, Lee Boyd Artist, and yeah, I'll hopefully answer some of your questions there as well. This is posted up on my Facebook page, so if you want to leave your question there, as soon as I get a question, it notifies me anyway, and I'll normally get back to people relatively quickly. So yeah, all good. Hopefully you've enjoyed this week. I started, I say, a little bit early, by about half an hour. I just had the blank screen up. This will be starting soon. Hopefully I'll do that. It won't be so long. But I do normally start kind of 5 minutes before, just to have a wee chat and let everybody arrive. Thankfully, all the way through this, apart from the very beginning, Inky, the real art cat, where is she? I'm going to zoom out and show you, has been fast asleep on my lap. Literally, when I started broadcasting, she just launched her claws at me and climbed up my leg. And she hadn't been in here all morning, but she is only now about 10 weeks old and is growing on a daily basis. Every time she seems to go to sleep and wake up, she's like a little bit bigger. Don't know if you remember a few weeks back, that sort of small, very cute face. She's become much more cat-like now. But yeah, she isn't the reason why we call this art cat. We were doing this before we got Inky. But yeah, she's become almost like a little mascot for all, twitching away. Right, yep, so guys, I'm going to leave it there for this week. Thank you so much for being here. Really did appreciate you being here. If you ever have any questions, any problems, let me know. Like, share, post the page. That would be awesome. That'd be great too. Guys, take care, and I'll see you guys next